How's it going? This is Fox back again for sound design tutorials. Something a little different today. I'm not going to do a tutorial as such. I'm just going to show you about a new feature that Synthmaster is going to have when the new update comes out. Synthmaster, I think it's currently on 2.7. It's going to be updated to 2.8 in a little while. I'm lucky enough to be on the beta program for Synthmaster. Well, not the beta program, but they let us have a look at it. I'll just talk a bit about the guys at Synthmaster because it's one of the most easy to get along with group of people that make this. There's a closed group on Facebook. It's called the Synthmaster Private Discussion Group. It's a group that the owner, Bulent, created for sound designers and people in the clique, if you like, to have a go at Synthmaster like this, to let us have a go at the new beta versions, give feedback. They're also great at taking feedback and requests for future updates. Now, me personally, one of the things I've been pushing for, along with a lot of the other sound designers, is drag and drop modulation. They've took it on board, they've implemented it, it works great. This is going to be released in the next version, 2.8. So I'm just going to show you the drag and drop modulation, how it works, how easy it is, and what a game changer for me I think it is to have this in Synthmaster. Anybody who knows me knows how highly I think of this synth. It's capable of so much, it's unbelievable. But this, to me, is going to open it up to a whole other new world of people. If you're not really deep into synthesis, the way it was before, you had to right-click on a knob that you want modulating. I say we want to modulate this cutoff, you would right-click on it. This still is a way of doing it if people don't want to use a drag and drop. You then would have to choose your modulation source. You have to choose between, it's not clunky, but unless you know what you're looking for, it can be a bit confusing. There's different synth LFOs, there's global LFOs, there's the different key scalers, the different envelopes, the XY pads. It's all there, but if you're not too sure what they're called, it can take a little while to work your way through and work out what you want to modulate with what, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a pad. By using this drag and drop modulation source. So I'm going to load the default preset. I'm going to reset the preset. So what this does is it just loads one oscillator turned on, no filters, no effects, no nothing, and the original oscillator is a sawtooth. So we're going to just make the basis of a pad quickly before I do any drag and drop modulation. Just going to slacken off the attack time. Give it a bit of release so the notes tail off afterwards. Okay, we're going to start with, we might as well start with a saw wave. Also in the new 2.8 update, there's two different sections. One is the oscillator section where you have control of the global controls for the oscillator, such as pan, coarse tune, fine tune, phase, and a dedicated high cut filter if you want to cut off some of the highs. And now is this lovely voices section. I'm not going to go over this in great detail, so it's mainly drag and drop modulation. But in this voices section now, it's a lot more like... the closest thing that it's seriously is Virus TI. You've got stereo spread, you've got detune spread. This is like when you can, on the Virus TI, if you see me use it, you can spread the new unison voices apart from each other. That's your detune spread. Your stereo spread is like the unison in the Virus, where you can then push them to the stereo spectrum. Phase spread staggers the starting point of each new voice, which makes it even thicker, and the tone is like the overall timbre of the sound. So yeah, you've got a lot of controls over this. So we're going to introduce a lot more voices. We're going to do 8. This is going to be loud. So we're going to use this same amp envelope to push the unison detune round. As it gets louder, we're going to detune these voices. So all you need to do now is on this box, drag it, drop it onto the detune spread, it automatically gives you a maximum amount. If you notice when I did that, it put it up in the matrix section here. So we now have ADSR envelope 1, layer 2, voice volume. I don't want to be on layer 2, I want to be on layer 1. There we go. So we're in the layer 1 matrix section now. So ADSR envelope 1, layer 1, oscillator 1, detune spread. It automatically puts it on full, which is way too much. Now if you want to pull it back, if you go in the middle of the knob, it's just going to move the knob as you would expect. If you hover around the outside anywhere, then it's your modulation, like in Serum. I know in Serum you've got a little button, if you like, that you have to push it on, but this, as long as you're outside the actual dial but close enough to it so that it knows you want to do the modulation, we'll set it to 3. Same with the stereo spread. We're going to use this same envelope to push the stereo spread round. We'll have this one a lot wider. Easy peasy, drag and drop modulation. We're going to introduce the filter now. We're going to turn filter 1 on. It's low passed, as you can hear. We're going to use a separate envelope to modulate this. So we'll use envelope 2, for instance, drag it, drop it on the cutoff. We don't want it to go all the way full. We'll give this a bit of a longer attack time than what envelope 1 had. Bit of release time as well. Gets louder. Let's change it to the digital mode actually, and it introduces a bit of limiting, which helps. You can really hear that filter starting low now, and then over the attack time it's opening up. So we want to add a bit of a shimmer now, and we might as well make use of one of these LFOs. So if we drag and drop LFO 1, if we drop that on the cutoff also, this time we want it to be negative. You can see, although you can't see the negative coming past the initial start, you can see in this box over here, this shows you the positive and negative modulation amount. So even though when we bring it to the bottom, you can only see a little bit, if you look in this box over here, you can see it keeps going negative. So we're going to want it to just sort of flick the end of the filter. Want a triangle, want to sync it, make it quite fast. Probably a little bit too much. I mean, once you've drag and dropped the modulation, I'll find it easier to do it over here, then you don't have to be too careful about where you're hovering over the knob. So, and we can make another update inside Synthmaster 2.8 will be this via knob. This is like you have inside Serum, inside the Matrix or Hive. You can have the modulation source that you've just chose be affected by something else. So now I've applied that filter, that LFO, to the cutoff. If we set synth, what we're looking for, ADSR envelope 2 as a via knob, this, how fast this LFO comes in, or the audible amount of this LFO, is now determined by envelope 2. So as that envelope 2 slowly comes in, what have we got it to? We've got it on the cutoff. As the cutoff gets opened, you're going to hear the LFO come in more and more and more. Very, very neat. We can also do that for the rate. LFO 1. So can we modulate the rate? speed? Yes, we can. So if we then use envelope 2 for LFO1 speed, we are going to have to right click this, because as soon as we click on envelope 2, the LFO vanishes. So we're going to have to use the old style modulation here. So if we right click, am I on LFO1? Yep. So if we right click on the speed, modulation 1 source, what was it? Envelopes. The menu's changed slightly as well now. ADSR envelope 2. Now we are also changing the speed of the LFO towards the end of the notes. So let's introduce another oscillator. Let's bring in oscillator 2. Click on oscillator 2. We'll change it to a pulse. We'll get a bit of pulse width modulation going on. We're going to give it 8 voices as well. Quickly going to set up. Go back to the oscillator section. We're going to pitch this one down 1 octave. So now we want to modulate this phase. Typically, pulse width modulation is done with a slow LFO, so we'll do that. We'll use one of the other LFOs. We'll use LFO2, drag it, drop it on the phase. Triangle, a bit slower rate, 1/1, so a bar, a beat. 4/1 is a bar, I believe. So we'll just add some basic effects now to show you that we can use these in the effects section as well. It would be nice if once you picked your modulation amount, if you hovered over the effects section. That would be very, very cool. Unfortunately, I don't think that's possible at the minute. I may be wrong. So yeah, you've got the gist of the basic drag and drop modulation. So easy. Drag it, drop it on it. As soon as you click on a modulation source like envelope 2, it then highlights, you can see what we're modulating. The cutoff, if I click on a different envelope, it vanishes. Click on LFO1. This was modulating the cutoff as well. You can see just at the bottom there the tiny bit about the modulation that we've got going on the cutoff there. If I go to LFO2, you can see that it's modulating the phase. It's very easy to see what is being modulated as you click through your different modulation sources. Also, when you click on it, it brings up the whole bank of things that are modulated by that modulator. So let's just add some effects quickly. We're going to have reverb. We'll use the that nice slow envelope 2 that we've got going on to bring in the wet for the reverb. So as the filter opens up, as the LFO comes in, the reverb is going to increase. We'll also add a bit of chorus as well. quickly back into the layer 1 section. We're going to add some unison at the top here. More voices. We've already got 8 voices and 8 voices. We're going to have 4 voices of all of those voices. So it's very easy to build your sounds up now. Probably should have chose a different sound rather than a pad, because I mean I do use a lot of modulation, but it all tends to be on effects and stuff. But yeah, we could even modulate the spread detune with another LFO, or key scaling, or 2D envelopes. We've got 4 different envelopes to choose from, as well as the LFOs in the global section. The multi-stage envelopes are pretty cool. You can choose the number of stages, bit like adding your points in Serum and dragging them around and stuff like that. You can then sync it, set the clock speed and things like that. But yeah, anyway, I've digressed. I have made a real basic pad. This was mainly to show you about drag and drop modulation, but I've probably gone over some of the other features as well. But yeah, massive game changer for me. So much easier than right clicking, working your way through the different menus. Drag and drop modulation, Synthmaster. Get it. Okay, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed this. Plenty more Synthmaster tutorials to come when the 2.8 update is finally released. Okay, cheers.